In this video, I'm going to break down the 2024 budget, how it will affect property investors, developers, and how it will impact social housing as well. Now, for those of you that don't know, my name is Luigi Newton. I own 29 properties in Nottingham, so this is definitely relevant to me. So keep watching and I'll tell you my views on how things are going to affect me as well. So the first change is an increase in the amount of national insurance contributions from employers. So if you are running a property business, this one will definitely affect you if you've got staff in your business, because ultimately you're gonna have to pay more. Now it's gone up by 1.2%. So now it's going to be 15%. So this will come into play April 2025. So it's a little while away, but you do need to think long term about your property business because it will mean you're essentially paying more money. Now, I know for myself, I do have people that live in the UK that I employ, but also I have people that work overseas on a self-employed basis. So for example, if someone needed an assistant for their property business, now instead of hiring someone that's in the UK, they might go elsewhere and get a VA, like a virtual assistant, maybe in the Philippines or India, because it's going to be cheaper for them. So yeah, it's kind of a catch-22. Also, at the point that you have to pay national insurance contributions, it was £9,000, but now it's actually gone down to £5,000. So that is going to be a big change as well. So the second major change is increases to stamp duty land tax on the amount that you'll have to pay if you are buying an additional dwelling. So if you're buying an investment property or a property that you want to buy, refurbish and rent out, which is what I do, then we are basically going to have to pay more money. Simple as that. So it currently is 3%, but now it's actually 5%. Okay, so it will affect things quite a lot because ultimately this is the government trying to collect money from landlords and property investors. So, you know, we are a bit of a target as landlords and the government do try and squeeze us. And the narrative right now is F landlords, forget landlords, let's tax them, let's get this money from them so we can build more houses for us, meaning the government wants to own a lot more houses. So that's why they're trying to tax where they can and basically collect a big pot of money that they can use to, you know, one of their initiatives is to build 1.5 million homes. And yeah, so I do think it is good that they are building this amount of homes, but I do think that trying to tax landlords, you know, I can see why they're doing it. And to be honest with you, I can still make deals stack up even on 5%. So it doesn't affect me too much. However, it just obviously affects profitability slightly. With myself, I buy cheap properties, usually around 100k, 150k, that kind of price. Sometimes more expensive, sometimes as cheap as 80 grand. But the stamp duty, we'll just have to factor it in on a deal by deal basis, and we can still make deals work on the residential ones I buy. Now with commercial property, they've not made any changes to the commercial property stamp duty. So, you know, that's gonna maybe make more people pivot towards buying commercial properties. Same with mixed use. If you're buying a mixed use building, which might be residential and then a commercial unit at the bottom, then there's no changes as of yet. So we'll have to see what happens with it. But I'm actually buying right now a mixed building and I'm buying 2 normal residential properties. So how this has affected me is 2 of my properties that I'm buying, it means I'm having to pay an extra £1,700 on one of my residential properties that I'm buying, that I'm going to buy and convert to a HMO. So extra 1.7k on that deal. And for the other one I'm buying, which is a large 180 square meter property in Nottinghamshire, I'm buying that one and I'm going to have to pay an extra £3,120 on that deal. So that's what we're going to have to pay in extras. It's just extra tax basically, guys. But we don't get down about it. We just keep moving forward and we just stack deals slightly differently. What I do think will happen is a lot of very rundown properties, first-time buyers won't be able to afford to buy those houses, to do them up and renovate them because build costs have gone up and a lot of people just don't have like 50, 60 or 100 grand to fully renovate like a property. The days of doing a refurb for 15 grand, they're over. Well, I can't do it. And this is what I do every day, day in, day out. So, you know, typical renovation for me is roughly about 40 to 50k. If the property, you know, is in a bad old condition, then that's the typical amount it will cost me to turn a property into a HMO. I do think that a lot of these properties that are fully run down, first time buyers won't buy them, and now I do think there'll be less investors and people doing buy-to-let property because of these changes, but also because of other changes that the Labour Party are introducing, such as more stricter requirements for landlords, the online database, the end of the fixed term tenancy, all these different things. I do think there will be less investors buying. So you can either see this in two ways: as an opportunity to get some really good deals right now, and you really do make the money when you buy. So you can see it as an opportunity. If there's less competition, you might be able to sweep up more, juicy deals. But it depends how you see it. It depends on your mindset. Me, I see it as an opportunity. And for me, I'm going to be exploring more commercial and mixed use buildings, which I'm already doing, to be fair, but even more so now. So yeah, it's not the end of residential property for investment for me. I love residential and I also love commercial. So yeah. Number 3, capital gains tax. So there was lots of talks about increasing the rate of capital gains tax on residential property. However, it's just been announced that residential property capital gains tax will be staying the same. Okay, now I do think they might go back on their word and change that, but as of now, the capital gains tax remains the same for residential property, which is currently 18% up to 24% for residential properties. So residential is staying the same when it comes to capital gains tax. However, if you do have other assets such as crypto investments, shares in different businesses, or commercial property, the capital gains tax has increased from 10 to 20% on the lower rates. Okay, so 10 to 20%, that's a big jump. And on the higher rate, it's gone from 18% to 24%. So this will affect you if you are looking on selling any of your commercial properties or other asset classes. This can affect you. Now guys, I'm a big believer in buying and holding. So for me, I'm not looking to sell any of my other assets. I think an asset is something to be held long term. So for me personally, this one won't really affect me in the near future. But if I'm talking 10 years from now, 20, 30 years from now, yes, this will affect me. But who knows what the rates will be at that time. So yeah, this one doesn't directly affect me right now, but it will do in the future. Number 4, effects on social housing. So there's been an announcement that there will be a £500 million top up to the Affordable Homes Programme. Now, how this affects social housing is this is going to provide stability for the social housing providers, because I know from working directly with these different providers, because I've got a lot of social housing properties in Nottingham that I own and lease to the social housing providers. I work with 4 different providers, so I get to speak with these guys every single day. And to be honest with you, they was a bit concerned. They didn't know what was going to be announced in the budget, but I think this is definitely positive for social housing and anyone that's involved in the space, because the government have clearly said that we're going to support social housing providers and make sure that they're safe and the tenants that live in their properties are safe, knowing that they're not going to be kicked out if there was any major changes here. So the providers were a bit scared about this, but now they're definitely feeling much more safe, knowing that there's going to be a big cash injection, £500 million. They know they can keep housing more and more vulnerable people or people that need housing the most. And I think that's a great thing. So from my perspective, I feel very happy with this announcement. And I do think that it's given me personally a lot more stability as well, because I lease roughly half of my portfolio to different social housing providers. So a lot of people have been asking me, is this going to be the end of social housing? And to be honest with you, now it's clear to see that this is not going to be the end of social housing in terms of working with providers and that kind of thing. Because ultimately, guys, the government, they are planning on building 1.5 million homes, which a large proportion of those homes will be social housing homes. However, it looks like they are going to be working with the social housing providers alongside building all of those social housing homes. So to me, that's definitely a thumbs up, and it looks like we're in this for the long term in terms of working with the providers. And it's not just going to be, a year left or 2 years left. They've actually said for the next 5 years, the social housing providers have got clarity and they should be comfortable knowing that the government's got their back, basically. So it looks like we're good for another 5 years. After that, we'll just have to review, see where things are. But the question comes, are they actually going to build these 1.5 million homes? That's kind of the question, which I personally think there might be more obstacles that happen that prevent them from doing so. But I am hoping and praying that they do build all of these houses. I think it would be a great thing for the UK. And if it means I have to pay more stamp duty and more national insurance contributions, then hey, I'm down for it. Let's do it. So just to add on to that, they are on their way to building a lot more houses and properties. So for example, they've confirmed £128 million of government funding is going to deliver the following projects. So there is a £56 million investment going into Liverpool Central Docks, which is expected to deliver over 2,000 homes in North Liverpool, along with office, hotel and leisure facilities as well. Also, there's a £25 million investment that's been confirmed. It's a joint venture with the government and Muse Place Limited and also the Pension Insurance Corporation, and that is to deliver 3,000 energy efficient homes across the UK. So they are kind of taking action and starting to build basically, which is great. And those 3,000 energy efficient homes, they are actually going to be 100% affordable accommodation as well. Well, that's what they're saying. But what do you class as affordable? It's a bit of a grey area. Anyway, it seems positive to me. Okay, so that brings me on to the final point, which is the government has announced that they are going to be hiring 300 planning officers. Now, the funny thing about this, guys, is that they're going to be apprentices and graduates. So I hope I'm not having to deal with like some guy that's fresh out of uni that doesn't really know what he's doing when I'm doing these lengthy planning applications. Because honestly, if that happens, I'm going to be pissed off. But I don't think that will happen, guys. I feel like they'll have their processes and it should be a good positive change. Now 300 I don't think is enough. I think we need much more. Right now, when I'm doing a planning application, say if I want to turn a large building into a large HMO, for example, or I want to make flats, when I'm doing these kind of applications, guys, honestly, it is a nightmare. It's so long. Like, their process and system is backwards. Okay, so for example, pre-planning takes the same amount of time as doing a full planning application. Pre-planning should take a couple of weeks, because if I want to purchase a property and I want to know, right, can I potentially get this approved? Say I want to turn it into flats. Can I turn this into flats? Pre-planning should be like 3 weeks. It's not. It's like an 8 to 10 week turnaround, and it's usually longer than that. Sometimes they do it on time. So not many developers that I know and myself actually use pre-planning for this reason. And that's just one example of how the planning system is backwards in the UK. Another thing is also their timeframes. So the timeframes to find out if you've got an approval on a property to turn it to say a HMO or flats, for example, is usually 10 weeks. Okay, that is a long time. 10 weeks is way too long. They need to be looking to massively cut that time period down. We should be getting a decision within a couple of weeks. That will speed up the development of new properties. Okay, so what I do is I'll take a building or property and I'm turning it and I'm creating more houses. Okay, I'm creating more lettable units from there via flats or via HMO units. So it just takes too long. From my perspective, planning needs a total revamp, and just hiring 300 new staff members, that's not good enough. They need to look more in depth into the systems and think, right, how can we actually make the process better as well as hiring more staff? So they're the main changes, guys. There have been other changes as well, but these are the main ones and how it will affect us as landlords, developers, investors. On a different note, guys, my overall views on this and all of these changes is that the only one that's kind of annoyed me a little bit is the stamp duty increases. However, it's not the end of the world. We just have to factor it into the numbers and make sure the deal stacks up before we go ahead. So we always do that anyway. So it's not like a massive deal. Other than that, those are the major changes. And I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. If you have, smash the like button, subscribe. We're going to do more content just like this. Stay tuned.